Well, this morning we're looking at a time that has come to close out Christmas celebrations. Some of us might be glad that some of the hectic shopping is over, and some of us are going to settle down a little bit more, not so much hustle and bustle that comes with the season, but we know that there are those that, like myself, I don't mind shopping, but my back doesn't like it. Standing around makes my back ache, and Susie's sympathetic to it now, and she's understanding that I'm not allergic to shopping, it's just my back bothers me. And so people say, well, it's just psychological, you just don't want to be there. But I don't think that's the case at all. And in fact, every time I get a cart, I just get the cart so I can lean on the cart and kind of stand side to side. That reminds me of a story of a fellow by the name of Ed Watt. He was visiting a local department store with his wife, and they had just purchased a piece of luggage and a cooler. And as Ed browsed in the shoe department, waiting for his wife to finish the rest of her shopping, a clerk asked if he could be some assistance to him. "Oh, no, thank you," Ed replied. He said, "I'm just waiting on my wife." And at that point, a man behind him says, "I'm waiting on my wife too, but I never thought to bring them lunch and an overnight bag." Now, sometimes her shopping can get kind of hectic, but that's goes with the season and so forth. But I think some of us are kind of glad for that phase of it to be coming to a close. And there's a lot of things that keep us occupied, but we've been really enjoying the Christmas season. We've been enjoying all of the programs, all of the season of looking forward to each and every event, each service that we've come. We've lit the candles and so forth on the Advent wreath, and this was one of the first Sundays that for a while that we've been able to light the Christ candle, the candle of light. That's a big one in the middle right there, and so I think that Christ candle this morning symbolizes the birth of Jesus. He was born. We look at lighting all the rest of the candles in anticipation when Jesus would be born and so forth and come into this world. And the Christ candle represents and symbolizes the birth of Jesus, and that he has brought us light that he brings into the world, and that represents light and the Christ candle. And so we need, as we look at those candles this morning and we look at the Christ candle being lit, we need to remember to love one another as Christ has loved us. And so we believe that there's some prayers that a lot of traditional people have done over the years. In the Protestant church, we don't realize so many things that took place in some of the other denominations and so forth. But when we light the candle, we light for hope that we will live, that Christ will live through us, and never to be erased from the meaning, that it would continue to be with us throughout the year. And as we think of Christmas coming to a close, we look at Christmas time, and we're looking now kind of in the rear view mirror, as it were, and so forth. And we find once Christmas is over, we usually take down our decorations and our lights and our ribbons and our dishes and our Christmas tree and etc., and we carry them off to either a place of storage in the attic or in the garage or in a shed. In other words, we tend to just put Christmas away. We put it away. I don't believe this is God's will for us. We should celebrate Christmas all year round, all year round. And when we look this morning into the Word of God, we're going to be into Matthew's Gospel this morning in just a little bit. But it was a few days after Christmas, a family was busy cleaning up and putting away all of the Christmas decorations. And as they took down the Christmas tree, the son asked, "What are you doing?" And the parents said, we're putting away all of our Christmas stuff. And the boy asked, well, why are you doing that? And his mom answered, she says, so everything will be back to normal again and the house will be clean. Christmas only lasts a few weeks, the boy responded. I don't want things to go back to normal again. And we tease Susie because she likes to clean. And so we got those things all put away and everything back in place. But I want to rest assured and let you know that she is not putting away the Christmas spirit and so forth. But on this first service that we find ourselves in today after Christmas, many of us has also thought about this. We said, well, Christmas is over. Let's just pack up everything and let's bring out all of the Valentine decorations. For after all, the stores have already begun to do that, haven't they? When you go into Hobby Lobby or into a place like that, you see all the Valentine stuff come out. And also Christmas stuff that you want to buy now is 50 and 75% off. And Valentine's items are just out in force already. Sometimes I think we just rush away from Christmas just as quickly as we possibly can. And we're so good at cleaning up after Christmas, and quite possibly we risk the removal of Christmas in our lives if we're not careful. What if Christmas would be kept? The wonder of Jesus. We just keep the wonder of Jesus coming alive for the rest of the year. What if we could just really hang on to Christmas and take it with us throughout the year of 2025? Maybe we can do that. Now, I'm not talking about leaving out all of our Christmas decorations all the time, either year round, which is actually what some people do. But I wonder, is there not a happy medium that we could do? And as Christians, I believe this morning with all my heart that there should be something different about us, something that we have seen during this. We've seen the star of wonder. We've heard the angelic angels sing, and we heard the baby cry in the manger, and our hearts have been just strangely warmed by all of the things that we've viewed and we've reminisced and we've looked and talked about, and we've read the Christmas story, because God came to us and he never left us. He came to us and he never left us. So this morning I want to talk about the story of the visit of the Magi, the wise men that came from the east, who came searching for Jesus. So if you'll turn to Matthew's Gospel, chapter 2. Lo asked me where I was going to be today. I said, Matthew chapter 2. I said, we'll be talking about the Magi. And he said, yeah, the Magi is in chapter 2 of Matthew. And Luke, it's the shepherds that's talked about in chapter 2. But chapter 2, verses 1, perhaps verses 1 through 12. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou Bethlehem in the land of Judah, art not thou the least among the princes of Judah? For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when you have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. I want to tell you this morning, the Magi did not forget Christmas. They did not forget about Christmas. They had been determined to seek the Christ. They were seeking the Christ. The wise men came to give their devotion to the new king, and they would not be turned aside. You know, all kinds of issues could have come up. Distance didn't stop them. The dangers of bandits and wild animals didn't stop them. The star could have disappeared some of the time. That didn't stop them. Herod's jealousy, it couldn't stop them. And even the unbelief of the Jewish priests and the leaders, they couldn't stop them either. They were determined. They were seeking Jesus. And what amazing faith that these people had. There were many reasons that they could have turned back, but they were relentless on their search for Christ. In our world that we live in today, a world of suspicion, a world of skepticism, a world of opposition, it's easy for us to let the light of Christ be extinguished. We must hang on to the Spirit of Christ as we move further from the day of Christmas. So, as we put away all of our Christmas decorations, let us hold on to the memories and the feelings of Christmas. Just like the wise men, we need to keep Christ coming, his coming, fresh in our hearts. There was a northerner one time saw a nativity scene in a southern town in which there was 3 wise men. They were wearing firemen's helmets. And totally unable to come up with an explanation, he went to the Buc-ee's store and asked the lady behind the counter about all those helmets. And she exploded with consternation. She said, "You Yankees, do you not ever read the Bible?" He assured that he did, but he couldn't recall anything that he could find about firemen in the Bible. And she jerked her Bible out, she flipped to Matthew and jabbed her finger in there, and she said, "See, it says right here, the wise men came from afar." I wonder why it was that Jesus remained in these wise men's hearts. Why? After the wise men left the baby that night, you can be sure that they didn't put Christmas experience away the very next day and go about their lives. For first of all, they still had a lengthy return to go home. They had a long trip to go home. Their trip was probably a minimum of at least a month and a half, 42 days plus. If they traveled 8 hours a day, very likely took them a couple of months or more to go back home, because they had to negotiate all of the rivers, they had to negotiate the mountains, the canyons, all of the dignitaries that they had to bribe on their way to have a safe passage through the areas. And all the way home, I'm sure they discussed and relived that meeting that they had with Christ over and over. They had lived the dream. They had lived the dream. They had gotten to fulfill the vision which they had set out to do. They had seen the child who was going to change the entire world. God had sent them, and they obeyed him, and they felt the joy of God for what they had done. And I hope we feel that joy today. So on their way back home. When they got home, they had some explaining to do, didn't they? Their business, their government contracts that people probably thought they'd lost their mind when they left everything to follow the star. And undoubtedly, some of their family also disagreed with what their decision was to follow the star. And such a journey was almost as loony to the people of their generation as it would be to ours today. They had a lot of apologetics to do, explaining. But I believe that there was at least 3 confirmations that they had. They were confirming the fact of what they had done. They had been on track with God, of what God had wanted them to do. The Hebrew scriptures that they had read did foretell the exact place where the Messiah would be born, and the star that led them to that exact town and hovered over the very house that the child was in, and it moved no further. Another thing that confirmed it was the presence of God that had filled the house when they were there. Don't you just love it when we come into the house of the Lord and you feel His divine presence? Then there was the angel that had appeared to them, apparently in a dream, and warned them not to go back to King Herod. So we find the scriptures, the star, the dream, those 3 objective truths that confirmed that their actions that they took were warranted. They were warranted. And first of all, these men had gone on this trip because they had a revelation from God. They had been in prayer. And when God's Holy Spirit had revealed to them that the appearance of the new star was a heavenly sign that the divine king was going to be born, this child, we find, had been sent to just alter all of human history. God wanted them to go and to honor this child with great gifts. And these weren't ordinary gifts. These were gifts that were fit and worthy of a king, worthy of God Himself. I believe that they were in the presence of Christ. God turned that humble house probably into a most sacred cathedral. It was like the Mount of Transfiguration experience that Peter, even in his old age, could not get away from and talked about. I wonder if they, just like Naaman the leopard, we find in 2 Kings 5:7, he wanted to take a sack of earth outside of the house that he'd been in back with him so that he could relive the very moment that he knelt and worshiped God. Naaman went back to his country, but his experience with God never left him. It stayed fresh for the rest of his life. And just likewise, I believe that the wise men, visit to Bethlehem was the greatest moment that they had ever experienced in their lives. And when they later kneeled to pray, the God of that experience was foremost in their worship. And I believe we can do the same way. In the same way, we should not quickly dismiss Christmas from our minds. It shouldn't be just another item to check off on the calendar. It shouldn't be that at all. It should be a constant light in our hearts. A pastor once told a story of a man in his congregation who had literally lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. He owed everybody. One day the pastor asked him, "Now, how in the world are you able even to survive? How can you smile? How can you be enthusiastic about Jesus and about life when you're going through such kinds of problems that you're going through?" And he said, "Next time you come to my house," he said, "I'll show you how." The pastor said that he was so curious that so not very long after that, he went to the house and he said, "I told you that I would show you the thing that gives me the strength." And so they went into his den, and there was a painting on the wall, a beautiful painting It was a simple painting of a Bible experience that we call Daniel in the lion's den. It was a beautiful painting. There was Daniel standing there amongst those ferocious lions. Oh, they looked awful ferocious. They were not sleeping. They were not slumbering lions. These lions, their teeth were bared and their claws were exposed. And you could tell that they were threatening to hurt Daniel. There was a shaft of light that seemed to be falling down from the roof of that cave in which Daniel and the lions were being kept. The man said to the pastor, "Look at Daniel's eyes. Look at Daniel's eyes." The pastor looked closely at the eyes of Daniel, and Daniel was looking up at the light. Was looking up at the light. The man said to him, "The thing that gives me strength in the midst of my troubles is this: Daniel did not look at the lions. He was looking at the light." So when you get surrounded with a lot of adversity and when you get surrounded by a lot of problems, don't focus on the lions. Focus on the light. That's God's perception, and that's His way of alleviating depression. I'm so thankful that we can look at the light. And this candle that we lit this morning represents the light. Jesus Christ, the light of the world. Charles Dickens once picked on the U.S. having a Thanksgiving Day, saying that we should be thankful 365 days a year, not just one. The same could be said about celebrating Jesus' birthday one time a year. It should be celebrated every day of the year. So, an application this morning, as we have reminisced these weeks of Advent, and we've lit a candle each week representing all of those times, we find that we lit the first candle, and that first candle represented peace. Then we lit the second candle, the second week. That candle represented hope. Then we lit the third candle, the pink candle. That candle represented joy. And then we lit the fourth candle, and that one there represents love. And this morning we've been privileged to light the one in the center, the Christ candle, and that represents light. You know, we can take Christmas with us into the new year, if we will. If you want your life to be better in the new year, we need to keep Christ as the object of our devotion. Christmas can inspire each and every one of us to take a new direction, a new direction. And as we look at these candles this morning, again, the candle of peace. This peace can soothe our anxious and our fragile spirits, and it can keep us calm. Keep us calm. This candle of hope this morning can hold us up, and it can give us peace. It can give us patience. The candle of joy this morning can fill our hearts, and it can overflow into all of our relationships. And the candle this morning of love, this love can live in our lives. And you know what we can do with it? We can share it. We can share it. And then this candle of light in the middle, Christ's candle, can brighten our lives. It can brighten our lives and shed light on our pathway, and it can help us find our way. I don't want us to lose our way after Christmas celebration. Let's keep Christ the head of our worship at all times. I guess there was a pastor that went to see a couple in his church, and it was early in the month of March. And as he was talking with them, he noticed a Christmas ornament hanging from the bookshelf. The lady saw him looking at it, and she said, "No, we didn't forget." Every year when I put away all the decorations, I choose one to leave behind on purpose to remind me that Christmas is not just one day. It's not just one season. For me, Christmas is a lifetime. That ornament is a reminder that Jesus walks with me each and every day. What a great reminder. So as we put away all of our Christmas decorations, and we need to remember that the Christ of Christmas, he has not gone away, that he's alive and well, and he lives with us always. Praise his holy name. Aren't you thankful for that today? I will praise him. Praise the Lamb for sinners slain. Give him glory, all you people, for his blood can wash away each stain. So thankful for salvation that has been come. Could we stand together?